Just a minute ago, an extraordinary confrontation erupted between Prime Minister Keir Starmer and King Charles III. The struggle for Britain's destiny is no longer a remote possibility. It is unfolding at this very moment, and it's more volatile than anyone could have imagined. The stakes, nothing less than the survival of the monarchy itself and the collapse of a government hanging by a thread. But what unleashed this turmoil? How did the crown, long a symbol of continuity, become entangled in a ferocious political conflict? And most crucially, will Starmer's career withstand this catastrophic blunder? It began with an action nobody foresaw, and it has already sent tremors through the nation. Less than 60 minutes ago, Keir Starmer, head of the Labour Party, stepped over a boundary so perilous, so politically explosive it could end his premiership. In what was meant to be a routine meeting, Starmer launched a fierce assault on none other than King Charles III, according to insiders within the halls of power. Starmer didn't merely raise concerns about the monarchy, he accused the sovereign of eroding the very democratic foundations on which Britain stands. Now it is vital to grasp the seriousness of what just occurred. The royal family has always represented unity and permanence. Even the faintest suggestion of political involvement from the crown is seen as taboo, a breach of centuries-old custom. Yet Starmer, in a burst of political rage, did what no leader has dared attempt for 300 years. He didn't simply criticize the institution, he directly challenged King Charles, accusing him of recklessness. The language was sharp and the message ruthless. The monarchy has no place in Britain's political arena. What makes this even more astonishing is that it didn't occur in isolation. The spark that ignited this storm was the royal household's own unprecedented step. Only days earlier, King Charles did what no monarch in modern memory has attempted. He held a private meeting with Nigel Farage and senior Reform UK figures at Windsor Castle. This was no ceremonial handshake or token courtesy, it was a closed-door 2-hour strategy session arranged personally by the King after he reviewed a Reform UK paper advocating constitutional change. Sources within the palace confirmed Charles was deeply troubled about the government's direction, and it's believed he voiced serious doubts about Britain's future under Labour leadership. Court insiders report that during the discussion the King made a startling remark. Perhaps it is time for new thinking in Westminster. A single sentence, but one capable of altering everything. That moment set the chain reaction in motion. Though discreet, the royal summit was a political bombshell. Within hours, news leaked and the fallout was immediate. Reform UK's membership soared by 400%, donations poured in, and Nigel Farage emerged as the clear figurehead of this rising movement, presenting himself as the defender of traditional British values. And as the public rallied to this new force, something unprecedented occurred. Keir Starmer retaliated in fury. Allegedly during a confidential cabinet meeting, he erupted. Witnesses recount the Prime Minister slamming his fist on the table, shouting that King Charles had betrayed his oath and accusing the monarch of meddling in politics. But this wasn't mere anger, it was something far more dangerous. Starmer's declarations could haunt him for years. He is reported to have said, "If Charles wants to play politics, I can play harder." The monarchy exists at the mercy of Parliament, not the reverse. This remark, spoken behind closed doors, was the political equivalent of declaring war on the crown. In that instant, Starmer had crossed the ultimate red line of British politics. By dawn, the press had seized the story. The Times led with PM's royal rage, while the Daily Mail thundered Starmer's war on the crown. Even The Guardian weighed in, calling it the Prime Minister's fatal gamble. This is when the narrative turned truly explosive. The public's reaction was swift and unforgiving. Polls flooded in showing 73% of citizens believed Starmer had gone too far in attacking the monarchy. Within 48 hours, Reform UK, once setlist, saw its membership balloon, its fundraising skyrocket, and its support surge in crucial constituencies. The entire political map shifted overnight, leaving Labour in freefall. Starmer's ratings collapsed as MPs within his own ranks began doubting his leadership. And here's the twist. Throughout it all, King Charles remained silent, issuing no public comment. The instant Starmer struck at the crown, Britain's political landscape began to unravel. What had been a controlled, predictable environment suddenly transformed into a battlefield. Within hours of the Prime Minister's reckless words, the media machine roared into overdrive. Headlines screamed of a rift threatening not just Labour but the entire British system. The phrase constitutional crisis circulated, not a distant warning, but a reality unfolding before millions, as journalists dissected every detail of Starmer's incendiary remarks. A tidal wave of outrage swept the nation. Social platforms, already a front line for political warfare, erupted. Defend the Crown trended worldwide as pro-monarchy supporters flooded Twitter and Facebook with messages of loyalty to King Charles. Videos of Starmer's confrontation with the monarchy spread rapidly, with users demanding an apology or even calling for his resignation. Polling agencies responded immediately, their latest figures revealing a dramatic shift in sentiment. According to Ipsos, 73% of Britons believed Starmer's assault on the monarchy was a step too far. And it wasn't just right-wing voices fuming. The very middle and working-class voters who once backed Labour were openly questioning their loyalty. Many said Starmer had crossed a line, one that even his fiercest opponents had never dared breach. Labour's internal meltdown was equally devastating. The party, already struggling to project unity, was now in open chaos. Senior figures long supportive of Starmer quietly began expressing alarm. Several sources confirmed that a group of Labour MPs had already started planning for succession, an unprecedented step against a sitting Prime Minister. A WhatsApp chat, tellingly named Damage Control, was reportedly created to devise strategies for limiting the fallout from Starmer's political self-destruction. And it wasn't only strategists in panic mode. Cabinet members who once regarded Starmer as their leader were now openly asking whether his conduct had irreparably harmed their standing. The mood in Downing Street was labelled utterly toxic. Inside sources disclosed senior advisors scrambling to contain the damage. The turmoil became so severe that Chief of Staff Sue Gray, previously counted among Starmer's most trusted confidants, reportedly threatened to quit before being persuaded to stay by the Prime Minister's office. The cabinet itself resembled chaos, with prominent figures such as Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, Transport Secretary Louise Hay, and Education Secretary Bridget Phillips reportedly weighing resignation over Starmer's handling of the crisis. It wasn't only Labour that was reeling. The Conservatives, despite their own internal wounds, found themselves on the defensive, drawn into the crossfire of this unfolding drama. Senior Conservative voices were publicly speculating whether Labour could recover from such a catastrophic mistake. This is when Labour truly lost the plot. One senior Tory strategist told reporters off the record, "The monarchy is sacrosanct for many British voters. To attack it is to attack what the nation stands for. Starmer has committed a grievous error, and it is unclear there is any recovery." Yet while Labour was unravelling, another political force rose from the crisis's ashes: Reform UK. A movement once dismissed as a protest fringe had, whether directly or indirectly, gained the Crown's implicit endorsement. The Windsor Castle meeting between King Charles and Nigel Farage, now the subject of intense conjecture, thrust Farage and his party into the spotlight. In under 48 hours, Reform UK's membership reportedly surged by 400%. Thousands joined, eager to rally behind the party they believed represented authentic British values in the face of what they viewed as Labour's betrayal of the monarchy. Farage, adept at converting disorder into opportunity, became the movement's public face. Rather than gloat over Starmer's misfortune, Farage presented himself as a unifier, casting Reform UK as the force to restore respect for the Crown and long-standing institutions. His message was straightforward, while others attacked the monarchy. Reform UK would defend it, and the symbolism resonated. Outside Reform UK's headquarters, flanked by Union Jacks, Farage spoke with conviction and command. As the scandal surrounding Keir Starmer's attack continued to rage, one conspicuous absence remained: any formal response from King Charles III. In the midst of unprecedented political upheaval, his silence has become a powerful presence, sending shockwaves through Westminster and beyond in British public life. Royal silence often speaks louder than words, and this silence is deafening. To grasp its weight, one must understand the monarchy's role. Though the sovereign wields no direct political power, the institution carries moral authority deeply embedded in the national psyche. For generations, the royal family has signified stability, unity, and tradition, values treated with near-sacred reverence by many citizens. For a prime minister to openly challenge the crown is not merely a political miscalculation. It can feel like an assault on the nation's identity. Yet, at this fraught moment, King Charles has chosen to remain mute. No press release, no televised address, no formal denunciation of Starmer's remarks. Instead, he has withdrawn to Balmoral, surrounded by a small circle of constitutional advisors, allowing events to unfold without royal intervention. Too many observers, that absence of comment is as consequential as any statement. That the monarch has not publicly rebuked the prime minister is interpreted by some as a deliberate, considered act. Constitutional scholars suggest the king may be purposely withholding comment to let political processes run their course uninterrupted by the crown. The monarchy's role is to remain above the fray, says Professor Sarah Matthews, a constitutional historian at Oxford. Charles understands that direct intervention could backfire, further politicizing the institution and turning it into a partisan instrument. In many respects, his silence is the most politically prudent choice. Yet the quiet has spawned rampant speculation. Westminster insiders are debating what it signifies. Is the king preparing some unprecedented step? Is he permitting the political class to self-destruct, watching from the margins as Starmer's career falters? Or is the silence a deeper, strategic reflection on how best to safeguard the monarchy's interests while preserving constitutional neutrality? Some analysts view Charles's restraint as a tacit rebuker, subtle way to register disapproval without engaging in open confrontation. The timing could not be worse for Labour. Public trust had already been fraying over economic management, inflation, and nationwide protests. By declining to speak, the king lets Starmer flounder without handing the prime minister grounds to accuse the crown of bias. Essentially, Charles appears to be playing a long game, permitting the crisis to play out while awaiting further errors by the prime minister that might doom his leadership. But others do not see the silence as strategic. Questions are emerging about whether the king has been pushed too far. Advisors at the palace are said to be monitoring events closely, yet they remain divided. Some Buckingham Palace insiders worry that the quiet could be perceived as weakness. There's only so much any monarch can tolerate. One palace source observed, Charles has been patient, but eventually he may feel compelled to draw a line. If the Prime Minister persists in undermining royal authority, a breaking point could arrive. The implication is stark. If Starmer continues publicly challenging the crown, a constitutional confrontation could be looming, and then there is the court of public opinion. With no official royal response, Britons are left to interpret the silence for themselves. Supporters of the monarchy read the quiet as an emblem of restraint and dignity. For them, the king's refusal to engage in a public spat cements his role as a stabilizing presence. The silence is the ultimate expression of royal dignity, one pro-monarchy commentator wrote, arguing that Charles is allowing Starmer to self-destruct while preserving the crown's dignity. Yet others find the absence of comment alarming. It has prompted debate about the monarchy's relevance today. If the monarchy is truly the nation's heart, should the king not defend it when attacked? Asked a Labour supporter, an argument gaining traction among some circles. Starmer may have overstepped, they argue, but the institution should not be silent. It bears responsibility for protecting the values that underpin Britain. As tensions between Keir Starmer and King Charles III escalate, Labour faces a full-blown crisis triggered by the Prime Minister's reckless remarks. What began as a political gamble has spiraled, delivering shocks through party ranks and leaving Labour teetering on the brink of collapse. The first signs of disintegration appeared quickly after Starmer's outburst. Within hours, stories emerged from Westminster detailing the chaos within Labour's inner circle. Senior figures who once backed the leader began voicing serious doubts about his judgment. At the core of this rebellion is deep concern among Labour MPs that Starmer's actions have alienated traditional supporters and severely weakened the party's position in marginal constituencies. Privately, many ask the same question: can Starmer survive this storm? And if he cannot, who will replace him? Public backlash has been devastating. Across the United Kingdom, the response has been heavily negative. Polling shows roughly 73% of the public regarded the attack on the monarchy as excessive. Labour's approval ratings tumbled to perilously low levels, reported around 28%, as working-class voters turned away. These are the same communities that once formed Labour's backbone. Now many feel betrayed by a leader who took on a symbol of national unity. In key districts where Labour once dominated, across northern towns such as Hartlepool and Stoke-on-Trent, former strongholds, are witnessing a surge in support for Reform UK, a party recently dismissed as little more than protest politics. Local Labour MPs are privately panicking as the political terrain shifts beneath them. Internal surveys indicate Reform UK is gaining quickly, with some estimates placing it ahead in several battleground seats. For veteran members, the atmosphere is eerily reminiscent of earlier crises in the party's history. Long-serving MP Diane Abbott was reportedly heard telling colleagues she had never seen a leader implode in this manner. For Abbott and others, the dispute now transcends the monarchy. It threatens the party's future. Labour's internal fractures are spilling into public view. During a fraught shadow cabinet meeting, Starmer's fury was on display as he allegedly slammed his fist on the table and railed against the crown. Attendees described a leader who seemed to have lost command of the situation. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner moved to calm him, but the damage appeared done. Chancellor Rachel Reeves, one of his closest allies, portrayed the Prime Minister as utterly furious, pacing like a caged animal. Yet it was not merely the anger that alarmed colleagues. It was his subsequent warning. Multiple witnesses in the room reported. Starmer declared, "If Charles wants to play politics, he'll discover I can play harder."